Just starting off with a comedy shot there, ladies and gentlemen. So, you'll have gathered from this channel that over the past few months I have been gathering memories, nostalgia if you will, of various childhood toys. And it then came time to put them into something. And so you'll have seen me constructing these Detolfs from IKEA. But then the problem was, what was I actually going to display and how was I going to do it? So I'm just going to take you through my collection display to date. And it's kind of a work in progress, but I thought you might be, interested. So we start off with some nice Zoids, which I've picked up largely from eBay. And who better than to represent the Zoids than the mighty Zoidzilla? By far and away one of the biggest ones I've got, and he needs all the height that the Detolf cabinet will give to him. So I've just got some red Zoids on the left who are the evil mutants, some blue Zoids on the right of him, and these little Zoids here that I picked up, which are kind of vinyl figures, which are from a slightly later version of the Zoids toy line, but still valid. And I rather like them actually because they're much less prone to breaking apart into small pieces. Now, here I've got a sort of one of my little sub collections which I'm working on expanding. There's a couple more items still to get really here. And these are the old Corgi bat machines, I suppose you'd call them. So the Batmobile you will see pretty much everywhere going. There are loads of them in the wild in varying states of condition. But here we've got the little one and the big one and the big bat boat and the little bat copter here. And a rather nice bat cycle that I picked up completely randomly at the Doncaster Toy Fair when I was there the other day. The other items here are actually a mix of Hot Wheels and Ertl. And the helicopter in the far corner there was a gift from One Cosmic Toys. And that's from the Batman animated series. I actually have most of them carded. But I discovered when I was putting this sort of arrangement together that it doesn't really suit carded items very well. It's kind of tricky to arrange them, so I need to think about how they could be displayed. And continuing the Bat theme, these are, incidentally, these are extra shelves that I got from an eBay third party. So if you can see there, they've actually got sort of extra brackets and the shelf itself is extra. It's a little bit different to the original IKEA shelves, but not so much that I care. Because actually they fit because I've got two on either side, so it kind of evens out. So here I've got my sort of Batmen. So on the left we have a Dark Knight Returns, quite a sort of solid figurine. This guy in the middle here I've had forever, and he I think is a Batman animated series era one again. As I say, I've had for a long time. And this guy I've also had for a long time. This is probably my favourite of the three of them because he's more the sort of 60s, 70s era comic Batman. And to my mind, he is very much the sort of Batman that I grew up with. You saw him on things like sort of, don't smoke posters and that sort of thing. So I quite like him. And behind them all is something that I randomly picked up from Leicester Vintage Toy Store, which is a Toy Biz Batmobile from the 89 film. I do have other examples of the 89 Batman film, and in fact that you can see there's an Ertl one just there, because I do love that Batmobile, so I do have a few exemplars of that. So as you can see, all of these are old toys. I haven't gone for anything particularly modern. The most recent one here is probably the Dark Knight Returns figure, actually, ironically. I don't think any of the others are much younger than that, although possibly the two vinyl Zoids could be. So here we've got my sort of robots kind of display shelf going on here. And the irony here is that these aren't all Transformers or all GoBots. So I've got quite a mix here. So I've got the Grandstand Converters Omegatron, which looks like Omega Supreme from the Transformers range, but of course isn't, although it is at the same time. Same model, exactly. Just different colour scheme. I've got my Takatoku Valkyrie in there as well, standing proud. So he displays really nicely in there. And then I've got a real mix down the bottom here. I've got Jump Starter Transformers. I've got an original G1 Sideswipe in there that I got for virtually now. But it's in really good nick. A few little mini bots. Got Cosmos lurking in there. And I've got a little sort of static vinyl Grimlock that again I picked up from a completely random eBay auction. But I've also got a little Ravage there, which is nice because he goes with this Soundwave, which is one I picked up in New Jersey of all places. Quite static, doesn't transform, but I love him as a display figure. I think he's a great Soundwave just to display. I've got a Spacey GoBot there. I've got Scooter. I've got Turbo. I've got Pathfinder. So all sorts of little bit. Also got a Rock Lord. That's Brimstone, I believe, lurking in the back there as well. So it's just a sort of representation of the various Transformer type robots you could pick up in the early 80s, basically, because all of them date from that sort of era. So moving down, I've got a rather lonely shelf here at the moment, actually, which I've been meaning to put my mini rig into and haven't yet. But that Twin Pod and Snow Speeder are die cast, and they are from my youth. I've had those since I was very little, which is unusual for this collection because most of these things I've picked up in the recent past rather than the ancient past. So going down here, this little selection is quite random. It's sort of a mix of Matchbox and Exploratrons, and I've forgotten its name now, but the silver car is a car that I had, and I've done a video on it separately, so do go and have a look at that. But I had it from when I was very, very little. I somehow managed to uncover it again and get hold of one again, so that's quite nice to have. And a lot of these toys down here are actually my very, very earliest toy memories, which I've recollected basically. So it's quite nice to have those there. And speaking of which, here we have a mixture of some thoroughly British toy lines, and the white and the silver ships are both Dinkies. One is a Zygon Patroller on the bottom right. I think the other one is also a Zygon something, but I can't remember what the proper name for it is. I really should have researched before I started filming, to be honest. But anyway, somebody can remind me, and again, plenty of videos on this channel involving them. And in the middle there, you have a Britain Space ship exemplar, which is a sort of one of the enemy's ships, and it can roll as well as sort of being flown around. It's got a die-cast tail on it as well, which is pretty lethal. I'm going to add to this. I do have some more Britain Space. I haven't quite finished this segment yet, but I need to fill some vertical space with some other bits and bobs, so I will get round to that. This shelf I quite like. We've got a Buck Rogers Starfighter, the large size by Corgi. The Lotus from James Bond, the large size one again, which has various sort of working features to it, and the James Bond Moonraker shuttle, which again was always a favourite of mine because it's a shuttle and it had lasers sometimes. We've got the Adventure 2000 range as well here from Matchbox, which includes this now what's it called, Land Ranger, something like that, which appeared in Land Raider possibly actually, which appeared in 2000 AD. Basically identical to that actually. Some of these were derived from other previous sort of Matchbox iterations and recoloured, but I quite like having those as a little sort of mini collection which I've picked up over time. Now you might be also familiar with these guys. Now this is again it's a bit of a mix. A lot of these are Corgi Juniors, but we've got Wonder Woman in a car in the far left corner there. Superman van, Charlie's Angels van, Spider-Man van, Joker Mobile, not the best condition of one, might try and get a better one. We've got a Spider Copter, a Superman spacecraft for no apparent reason because he doesn't really need one, but anyway. A smaller Moonraker shuttle, a smaller Starfighter from Buck Rogers, and the Liberator from Blake 7, which is nice to have. Took me quite a while to get one that had all three of its sort of little prongs still there. I think they're neutron cannons, if I remember rightly. But that is the way it's supposed to fly. It flies with the pointy bits forwards, because they're its weapons. We've got the A-Team van from Ertl. We've got Kit, also by Ertl. We've got another little Lotus, but I think that one's missing. I think it should have a 007 sticker on the front of it. So that's, again, what I might need to upgrade. This is not anything to do with Blue Thunder, and yet apparently it is identical to Blue Thunder. So that was another random, I think it was a Matchbox pickup. And that is the, I want to say, what's it called? The Austin, no, not Austin Powers, James Bond, sort of classic ejection seat car. And the name will not come to me, Austin something, yeah? But that's just a nice, these are the ones that were in my toy bucket all the time when I was growing up. And I just think it's a really nice little selection of them to have. And they're all reasonable quality. I mean, getting that getting the Moonraker shuttle inside its little display blimp, that was apparently how they were actually displayed in a shop at one point in their lives. So that's quite nice to have. Here we have another slightly more modern selection, but again, a nice collection to have. And this is all of the Babylon 5 micro machines, apart from the one in the front. And the big Babylon 5, I say big, it's all relative, but the larger Babylon 5 in the front is actually from one of these. And these are the action figures that were released with sort of varying success to promote this, to promote the series and obviously make cash for the creators. But I like the fact that they're still boxed and they make a nice backdrop for the Micro Machine selection. But they came with, if you can see it there, they came with slightly bigger versions of the ships, which look very much like the Micro Machines versions, but are about twice the scale, perhaps. So you can see here that Babylon 5 is of that larger size as compared with the smaller Micro Machines behind it on stands. So not quite sure what the background was there, unless they simply licensed the designs various. But again, they have been displayed prior to this on a stand which was sort of multi-tiered, but in a much smaller cabinet. So having them open like this, I really, really like. And then we go back in time to a different space, a space of 1999. And here we have a collection which I never really thought I'd ever have again, which is a white eagle, a green eagle, and a blue eagle, all by Dinky. And these, again, take me right slam back to my childhood. I love these, but I only had a white and a green one growing up. I did not have the blue. So the blue is new for me, but it's lovely to have it. And the green eagle in the middle is unusual in that it's older than the other two because it's got the yellow RCS thrusters and it's got silver engine bells. So as you can see, its aft section is very different to the aft section on the other two. But really nice to have those all together. And as you can see, the other difference with the blue one is it has the white pod for the radioactive waste canisters, whereas the white eel has the red pod, but they are basically identical. And lurking in the background there, you can see something I got from a certain Blue Harvest Toys, which is a rather nice UFO interceptor from Shadow, and a sort of reproduction display cut out for it. I can't quite decide if I want to keep the display piece there. It doesn't really fit with the way I'm displaying other things, but that being said, it's above 2 carded figures, so there is that. But I figured that as they all were based on the moon, that was the appropriate place to put them. And of course, the series are linked somewhat as well. And finally, for this cabinet, we have, continuing that theme, a Shadow Mobile from the same series, UFO by Jerry Anderson, also by Dinky. We have a rather nice Fab 1 from Thunderbirds by Dinky, and we also have the Thunderbird 2 by Dinky, which for some inexplicable reason was blue. I've still got nothing on that, apart from the fact that apparently blue paint was in ready supply at that point in time, so they made it blue. But oddly, those were the only Thunderbirds that Dinky did. I don't really know why, because you would have thought that they would have tried a bit harder. And there is a small Thunderbird 4 with the Thunderbird 2, but that is your lot for Dinky Thunderbirds, which was curious, because it was one of Dinky's few licensed tie-ins was the Jerry Anderson shows. So, I'm going to move on now, and I'll show you the slightly more, well, slightly busier cabinets in the other room. So I'm going to ignore my rather vast Eagle Moss collection here for the most part, but you will see some elements to it in these Detolf cabinets. So here we have a Vorchak class attack cruiser from Playmates. I don't have as many of these as I would like, actually. I'm humming about getting an Enterprise, but there is a Romulan Warbird elsewhere in the room. But we'll go more old school now. So we go back to Dinky again here. And this is another one of Dinky's relatively limited licensing opportunities. But here we have the rather large Dinky Enterprise, which fires torpedoes out the front of it, as you can probably see there. Has a little docking bay for a shuttle underneath it. And the Enterprise on its side there is also a smaller Dinky Enterprise, which was one of the last things they produced. Now, these Klingon D7s, I think that's the right designation. The big one is a Dinky, and I didn't really know of its existence until relatively recently, so I was quite pleased to be able to pick one up in reasonable condition. And like the Enterprise, it fires torpedoes out of its front, but they had to distort the shape a little bit to do that, but it is what it is. The smaller cruiser at the front is actually a Corgi, which was brought out for Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. And the larger one to its right is again a Dinky, which is again one of those ones I had no idea existed, but it's substantially bigger than the Corgi and yet also very, very similar to it. So interesting to have them all together like this. And this one is the equivalent of the Corgi, but for the Enterprise. So actually, I'm saying that, or is that the? Might be getting myself confused. That could be the Ertl. No, I'm wrong. That's the Ertl. Sorry, the one with the black stand is the Ertl. We didn't seem to get stands for I did have. Now I'm confusing myself because I think there may be a Corgi Enterprise out there, but that may actually be one that I'm missing at the moment because I don't think I've seen one in decent enough condition to pick up. I might have to. That's reminding me to have a look for one of those actually. Now here we have a ship that I'm very, very, very fond of, as you can tell by the sheer number that I've got here. The one at the back is an Eagle Moss XL bird of prey. The one on the left is actually a Corgi bird of prey, and that surprised me. I don't know if it surprises you, but Corgi have actually done this range where there's one of the many anniversaries of Star Trek, obviously, but they actually got the right to do a range of Star Trek ships, and I actually really love that one because I've always loved Corgi models, and it's nice to have them all in one shot here. The two at the front are Ertls. The one on the right is from Star Trek 3, of which I had at least 2 when I was growing up. But the one on the left is, I think it was actually brought out for Star Trek 5. Initially I thought it was going to be a bit rubbish, but actually I don't dislike it. Its coloration is a little bit odd, but I don't dislike it. And it is basically identical to the Star Trek 3 version. But I preferred the Star Trek 3 because it was at least more uniform. But actually, when you look at a bird of prey, they do have a lot of detailing on the wings, so that's kind of why I don't now mind it from a proper point of view. This one is a funny little one, which is you actually make up from a sort of a packet, and I was going to say it's Konami, but I'm sure that's not the right type for it. So again, have a look on the channel. You'll see that you'll spot it there. So this is a bit of a sort of holding area at the moment for other things. So these are the original Babylon 5 micro machines. A couple of my spare packets of them. You got sort of a Starfury and Minbari cruiser in there. So they're relatively unusual ones to have spares of, to be honest. Not be unpackaged, but it is what it is. I've got what's this? What are these guys called again? Is it Jazbo or something? What are they called? Let's see if I can spot it with the phone. Oh, Jada. But I've got the DeLorean there and Kit there. Still debating whether or not to get those out to display them. I think they'd be a good displayable size, but I think I need a couple more things in the same scale to make it worth my while getting them out. And that's an Eagle Moss Batman animated series Batmobile. I've got quite a few flavours of of Batmobile boxes like this. But again, it's just a question of the displaying of them really as much as anything else, because I'm just not quite sure how best to do that at the moment. So I'll have a think about that one. Here we've got oh, it's a Zygon Marauder. There you go. So that's a boxed Zygon Marauder there. That's the same one as I showed you next door, but for some reason I just picked up a box one as well. There's a Dinky Trident Starfighter lurking in there as well, which is also boxed. A completely random Onslaught, which was reduced at the time when I bought it, so I just bought it because I had it when I was little. And that is a Star Trek V Klingon Bird of Prey on the card, which again, no idea why I picked that one up particularly. I just did, it seems. So let's go over to the other cabinet. This one does make me laugh still. I picked this up in Blackpool from iCollectibles. Not the sort of thing I normally go for, actually, but yes, it's Cockknocker from Jane Silent Bob Strikes Back. It's still a very, very funny film, and that is Mark Hamill. That is Mark Hamill's character, and yes, he did have a lightsaber, although they called it a bong saber. So there you go. But anyway, that's completely random. Why he's up there, again, I haven't figured out a sensible thing to do with boxed figures. But here you can see I've got various Bat family figures in here. I've got the Azrael Batmen in here. So I've got his red and his blue versions in there. Sorry about the reflections, it's a bit tricky here. I've got a little Captain Britain there, which we still haven't really seen on screen. And I've got Azrael in his original Azrael armour there as well, which I randomly picked up as part of that, my sort of hunting for him as a character. We've got Superman and Joker from the same Dark Knight Returns range as was next door. We've got Dark Phoenix, X-Men Marvel Legends there. I got my Death's Head is lurking in the back there. He's technically still in the box, although actually the box falls apart on a regular basis. So again, it's a question of arranging these guys a little bit better, I think. We've got the Drummer from Planetary, which is a comic series no one has ever heard of, but is very, very good, that Warren Ellis was involved with. And that is the sort of, as you can probably see there, it's the Azrael Batman before he went fully armoured. So the reflection's really bad on it. Let's try that. There we go. But that, to my mind, would have made a really good modernisation of the Batman. In terms of his, having a bit of an upgrade to his armor and his outfit, but they didn't go that way. He went this way instead. So that's how he ended up looking off the back of that storyline. Now here we go a little bit older. Oh, there's also the Girl Robin from the Dark Knight Returns comic there as well as part of that selection. Now here we go a little bit older. Here we have a sort of slightly random mix of vaguely completed 80s era figures. So I've got a Zoid Zaberfang lurking in the back there. This chap is he's a sort of Zoid, I wouldn't say he's a Zoidzilla knockoff, but he reminds me a lot of Zoidzilla, and he's actually more recent than that. He's a Mars robot. Again, I've got a video on him. We've got Ace McCloud for the Centurions. It's not the right helmet for the assault weapon system he's wearing, but beggars can't be choosers and all that. I've got a Robot Anti-Terror Squad little set there. Got another one of those elsewhere actually as well, but that's that. I've got a couple of little Battle Beasts lurking there. Don't ask me what the names are, but he's got a silly elephant related name. The other one has not. This is a little guy I picked up for an auction. He's from Once Upon a Time Life, if you remember that cartoon at all. Very random one, I know. Also random, one of the pirates from Pirates of Dark Water, which was an animated series, possibly early 90s actually, or very late 80s. But I quite enjoyed it because it gave me a made-up swear word I could use at school without getting told off for using it. Noija tat. Yeah, there you go. And a visionary who probably doesn't have the right hologram on his chest, but that is a visionary, so that's just an example of. Here I've got a random bundle of boxed figures. So I've got a Borg simulation, I've got Xena, I've got Jane Cobb from Firefly with his hat, and a couple of Sequest DSV figures, including Nathan Bridger, that I've picked up randomly because it's quite a finite collection, so I thought I might get all of those at some point. And I've also got Mr. Jean-Luc Picard, and I did have a John Sheridan loose in here as well. The Babylon 5 came with. And finally, this is just my sort of general Gubbins holding area for Thunderbird stuff, and Captain Scarlet stuff, and Stingray stuff, and Terrorhawks stuff. My Terrorhawks collection currently consists of a wind-up battle tank, and that's it, which is pretty terrible. But the reason for that is Terrorhawks seem to have gone very, very expensive of late, especially if you're getting them anywhere near boxed. So that's why I haven't gone any more extensive. I used to have them when I was little. Sadly, as with most of my stuff from when I was little, it's gone. But anyway, that is basically most of my static collection. There are a few bits and bobs floating around as well, but that's it for now. So do let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll catch you for the Cosmic Council later on this week. Cheers for now.